Hello and welcome to my channel where I show you my favorite things in 3D, gaming and VR. And today I'd like to show you how you can make gold material in Blender using texture painting and a gradient. As you can see, I've used this technique on one of my VTuber models called Mika. I've used it in her hair piece and in my other model on her belt. And it creates a very realistic feeling of metal. So create a torus of around 12 segments in size. And you can make it smooth shaded and also remove the inner rings so it's slightly hollow and concave. So now we have our ring shape. Now you need to give it a new material and make it an emissive material. Now give it a seam along its back and unwrap it in the UV editing section. Your UV map can also be made so that it's a perfect square or rectangle by adjusting the points within one face. You need to align them along the X and Y axes by selecting them, right clicking, and you'll get a menu which says align X and align Y, as you can see here. You can auto align them as well. That should work too. So just align all the corners so that they're all right angles. And then you can put it into faces mode, select the face and follow active quads. And now it's a perfect rectangle. And that makes it a lot easier to texture paint, as you will see. So now we're in the texture painting menu tab, and I've put fill. I've selected fill as my texture painting mode, and I'm just giving it a color, just a random color, so that when I go into the solid view, I can still see it, or even in the materials preview. Now, I need to get colors that are similar to gold. So in order to do that and to create what I'm doing at the moment, which is the actual gradient fill, the colors need to be selected. You could just create them like I did here. I just created them just randomly. I selected some colors that gave the feel of the light and dark parts of a gold surface, the highlights and the shadows. But you can also import a reference picture and select the colors from here. Now you can also press E and then drag across this picture, and Blender will select every single color point along where you've dragged. You can also select them by hand. So you want a nice range of dark to light, because that's what creates a metallic surface. It's the reflections, which are usually on the edges, and the very, very dark shadows. And then those bright yellows of gold. So make sure you select a good range of colors from dark to light. Then you can add new stops along your gradient by clicking on this plus sign, and then you can fill those colors in from your palette like this. And so you just need to make sure that it's kind of like a wave. It goes from dark to light to dark, as you can see in the ring that I've already made. So I'm starting by putting some lights in and taking my gradient down. And going back up on the other side with some yellows and going very dark again. And that's a very smooth gradient. And that's kind of what you want, quite a nice, gentle, smooth gradient. Now this works best on a flat surface. So the ring that I'm making at the moment doesn't really show it to its best effect. It's better, it looks nicer if the surface is flat, as I'm showing you here. I've got a plane, I've made my gradient, and I'm going to drag across this plane with fill selected as my texturing method. So here's the gradient all set up. Now just drag down and you get that lovely, lovely goldeny texture. You can make the bright bits even lighter. You can adjust the zones of color. But this looks really good on a flat image. It probably looks better if you look in the UV map section. Because it's slightly smaller and it sort of gives those highlights a bit more of a pop. So now I'm just selecting the inner section of the ring and I'm going to duplicate this and make it its own separate mesh and give it a separate and different texture. It will still be the gradient. It will just look slightly different to the outside, just so it gives the illusion of the inner side being separate to the outside. So now I'm just moving that new texture out away from the previous texture that it was copied from. And I'm going to texture paint it once again with the gradient. Like that. You can adjust the strength if you want some variation. You can make it slightly less than 100% strength and do it a couple of times. So there's a few sort of texture differences. Now in this section, I've added Blender as an emissive word texture using texture mapping in the shading menu. Now this takes a while to get right, so have a fiddle with it, have a play around with all the coordinates until you get something that looks similar to this. And there you have it. The ring of power, the one ring to rule them all. Blender. Okay, bye bye.